So I'm in studio with Alice Leah, and I've done an interview with her, and she's going to be sharing with us tonight on Radio Hallelujah. Welcome, Alice, and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Jerusha. Thank you for the invite.
It's a pleasure. So please won't you tell some of our listeners a bit about yourself and a bit more background, because I'm sure the ladies and the listeners out there would love to know more about you.
Sure. So I'm definitely not a born and bred KZN girl. I actually hail from a small dorpie called Vereniging in the good old Vaal. It's just slightly south of Johannesburg. I don't usually share that with people because it's a very tiny smidge of a town in the middle of nowhere. But my husband was transferred to Durban in 1997, and I was devastated that I had to leave the comfort and security of Vereniging. And I'd said to him, I don't possibly know anybody in Durban. What on earth am I going to do in Durban? I know nobody. I had no family here. And I was actually quite devastated at the prospect. But arrived here, and within a day of Durban, I was like, oh my word, what have I been missing? For the last 22 years living in Vereniging, it really, really was a definite upgrade to come to Durban.
Wow.
In terms of my background, I'm an English teacher by profession. I studied English teaching. However, I only managed to last for 5 years because it really, really was it's definitely a calling to be a teacher. I won't say anything more than that, but suffice to say I left teaching for the safety of the children. You do have to have the patience.
I think the moms who are homeschooling at the moment can't disagree with you there.
You absolutely need the patience of Job to teach, and especially when it's not your own children. It's definitely not something I had ever really wanted to be led to do. My father said study teaching because it's a respectable profession. I had wanted to be a Hollywood actress, and he said, there's no way I'm paying for you to study acting. There's no future for acting in South Africa. And I was like, I'm not aiming for South Africa. I'm aiming for Hollywood. But he didn't fall for that. So yeah, I did. I studied good old teaching and left after 5 years. And from there, I just had my first child, Jordan, my daughter, who's now turning 21 next week or in 2 weeks' time. And I kind of thought, well, all I've ever done is teaching. So what do I actually do from here? And I was introduced to independent newspapers. A friend of mine said that there was an advertising repping job going there. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about advertising sales, but it sounds like fun. And there were no children involved. So I thought, oh, well, that sounded really, really fun. And yeah, I started working on a little product called the Shopper, the North of Durban Shopper. Sold advertising for 5 years. Absolutely loved it. The pace every day, everything was different, meeting new people every day, working on a floor we had a few thousand people in our building at the time. So it was a really, really exciting industry to be in. And totally different to what I'd done before. You know, teaching was very, very different, very isolated.
Very courageous of you, though, to make that move from teaching to that sort of thing. I mean, so many people just stay in their comfort zone and don't actually move out. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it was courageous. So I just think, you know, I had these grand designs of being a stay-at-home mom, and I was at home for 3 months with my daughter, and that wasn't paying the bills. So I was kind of pushed out of my comfort zone a little bit. But yeah, the advertising industry was amazing. And that's actually where I met one of my mentors, Gillian Scott, who was an advertising rep alongside me, and we're still firm friends today. She's an absolutely amazing lady in her 60s with a lust for life. But yeah, 5 years after advertising sales, I decided to leave that and ended up buying a magazine called Mum's Mail, which had been started newly by a lady called Sally Duplessis. And yeah, that was where the Mum's Mail story started.
Wow. So we're going to come to that now, which is, I mean, your career has revolved a lot around working with women. So tell us about your involvement in these various platforms, Umhlanga Women Achievers, KZN Women in Business, then going on to Mum's Mail. And I'm sure you had a lot of involvement in the Mum's Mail High Tea as well. So you've just met hundreds of women in the last couple of years. So tell us a bit about that.
It's really, really been a blessing. You know, from moving to Durban and not having a network at all, I firmly believe that the grounding for my network was independent newspapers, where I met so many wonderful business owners, men and women. And then buying Mum's Mail, I took over a small client base, but a lot of the clients that I dealt with at independent papers weren't the right target market for Mum's Mail. So it really was starting all over again, starting from scratch and finding the type of businesses that would benefit by advertising in Mum's Mail. So it really was a case of, how do I get my name out there quickly? Because, you know, knocking on doors and walking door to door in those days, you know, that was still a tactic you could use for sales, but you could only meet so many people in a short space of time. So I started joining the ladies networking groups, and I joined KZN Women in Business and Umhlanga Women Achievers. And that was a way that I got to meet a whole lot of business owners in a very, very short space of time. But, you know, knowing me, I don't just want to be a member. I want to jump in with both feet, all hands and all the body parts, and put up my hand and say, pick me, I'm not busy enough.
Oh,
Let me do more. So I actually got involved on the committees. I served in various roles on the committee, and I served as chairperson for KZN Women in Business for 2 years, and for Umhlanga Women Achievers as 1 year. Okay. And that was really a trial by fire, where you get thrown in the deep end and you lead that organization. And of course, it's a voluntary position. There's no payment for it. You just have to somehow fit it into your normal day. But it was just amazing to be leading those organizations. KZN Women in Business is more than 20 years old now. It's been going for a really, really long time, and some of the founding members are still involved. And just to see the nurturing, loving hand-holding within those organizations was incredible. At the same time, I was a BNI member, which is for men and women. Yes. And it was on a totally different level. The type of care and love and nurturing at the women's organizations, and this is definitely not a gender bashing session, but the types of things that you could discuss in the ladies groups and the type of nurturing you got. And it was a kind nurturing. You know, sometimes there was a bit of a slap over the wrist when people, you know, didn't toe the line. But it was always with kindness, and it always came from a place of love and respect. And I think with the ladies organization, or at least the ones that I was part of, it was always a very loving, nurturing, hand-holding and building up experience, which was absolutely amazing. And it was wonderful to be part of those organizations.
Which I think is why there are so many of these women networking and women in business forums, because women just enjoy that sort of thing, the physical contact and the connection and the conversations. So there's just something that women bring to that sort of environment, I think.
Absolutely. I found one of the most difficult things for me during this lockdown period has been that lack of physical human connection. I'm a very social being. So for me to not be able to hug and see all the friends that I've made over the years, from a social aspect as well as a business aspect, has been really, really hard. I have a little group called Coffee Club, and there are about 7 of us that have, you know, a part of the Coffee Club. And once a month we would meet for a coffee and a chat and a little bit of a gossip. Although I know this is a Christian radio station, we're not supposed to gossip. Sometimes we would just have a little, you know, moan about our husbands. But yeah, it's just the lack of that physical connection I found has really been quite emotional for me. You know, we've been able to still Zoom and catch up on WhatsApp chat, but that physical connection, the hugging, I'm a hugger, so I've really, really missed that. I found that of all the horrible things about lockdown, definitely that isolation from other people for me has been a huge thing.
Yes,
so,
I mean, us girls, we just love the company and the chats so it really has been difficult over this time.
Yes,
when we come back, we're going to be chatting a little bit more with Alice about a few other subjects that are going to help so many women and so many listeners out there. We'll be back shortly. So Alice, thank you for joining us this evening on Radio Hallelujah. And I want to get on to our next question with you, which is, you know, in your opinion, are women supporting women more and more? There's so much about it on social media, but, you know, as we navigate business and social media and the comparison and just women putting themselves out there and being seen and having more of a voice, do you think that it is doing more damage to women supporting women, or do you think that women are rising up to support each other through all of this?
I think that there's always the intention behind that support that needs to be looked at. So, you know, there's a saying that blessed is she who expects nothing, for she'll never be disappointed. And that's never rung more true than in a women's support type network. I've often found in these networking meetings, you will find the people that come in that just expect. They don't want to give anything, and they just try and push whatever they want to sell onto you. And that never ends well. We gently usher them out of the organizations. But if you come with no expectation of gaining and you come with a heart of giving, you'll find that that support will come back to you tenfold. God knows what's in your heart. And if your intention is not right, that support will never work. You need to come with an attitude of nurturing, an attitude of growing, and again, also a little bit of gentle helping with the blind spots. So I think in terms of, I think the women's support networks have always been there, but they seem to have come to the fore and have been given more prominence more recently. And I think especially in this time of lockdown where people have been craving support. I know of a friend, a personal friend and colleague that committed suicide during this time. And you know, when I look back at our conversations, I think, could I have been more of a support? Could I have done more? Could I have said more? And I just think my exhortation has been over this time. We do a daily prayer group with our staff. We only started it during our lockdown period. We do a little Teams meeting. And I've just said to them, look out for the people that are battling. Look out for the people that are needing support. Look out for the little red flags. Offer your support. Look for people that you can assist, and go out of your way to be kind. Go out of your way to look for people that need a little bit of extra help. And I said to them, it doesn't always need to be financial support. A lot of people just need somebody to listen to. They just need emotional support. So often in our daily prayer group, we talk about that. Just be a support for somebody else. What can you do to make somebody else's life a little bit easier today? And I don't think that's limited just to lady support groups, but by our very nature, ladies are more nurturing than men. So yes, definitely our support is at the forefront, and certainly in my mind, I love to be a support to those around me. Network is very important for me.
No, absolutely. And I just love what you're saying about creating that prayer group at your work, and the fact that you gather every morning and just put that at the forefront. That is so important. And that's one of, I think, the great things that this pandemic and this lockdown has done, is it's created new habits and new routines for people and shifted our focus a bit onto what's important, really.
Absolutely. You'd asked me a few minutes ago before the break, and I'd forgotten to actually answer that question about the Mum's Male High Tea. Yes. And in terms of that being just a huge support for that charity. So I started the Mum's Male High Tea many years ago now. I think it was in 2005, with a friend of mine who said, let's do some good for charity. Let's do this women's tea every year. And I said to her, are you insane? I'm busy enough. And she said, it'll be fun. We'll do it together. Well, anyway, many years of fun later, the Mum's Male High Tea is one of the biggest charity fundraising events on the Durban calendar. I chose many years ago to support the Sunflower Fund. I'm actually still an ambassador for the Sunflower Fund. They build a bone marrow registry so that when people have a blood disorder, a life-threatening blood disorder, they have their chance of finding their 1 in 100,000 match. So in terms of continuing the theme of support, my support of the Sunflower Fund has definitely been a big thing in my life for at least the last 15 years. That has been something that I have promoted passionately. Having had a friend who lost a child at the age of 3 to acute lymphoblastoma, that also was a big push, or maybe a gentle nudge to support the Sunflower Fund. So again, support is a recurring theme in my life. Support, network, and connections.
Wow. So that's actually leading us on to our next topic of conversation. And I mean, I've just felt that the word support has become, in some instances, a bit of a heavy word and a sensitive word, because I feel like it's created an expectation amongst women that we need to support each other. But at the same time, we don't actually know the person's personal circumstances and their struggles. And now this additional pressure is on a lot of women that actually step up and are part of these networks and kind of take that leadership role. And a lot of what they're going through personally is sometimes a little bit stifled because they're feeling like they need to step up and be there for the women that are expecting that support from them. So I wanted to just chat about, we all in our personal race of survival. So how do we actually find that balance between supporting others, but also supporting ourselves and not feeling. I found that some relationships have been strained and some have even broken because there's this kind of unmatched expectation between women that, oh, well, I expected you to be there for me and you weren't. So that type of thing can actually ruin the relationship. What is your take on this?
You know, I've got a friend, Peach Pichet. She's absolutely amazing. She has a saying, be a vitamin, not a vampire. And this totally leads into what you're asking. It is quite exhausting, though, to be a vitamin all the time. It's really tiring, especially in this lockdown time, to always be the positive one, to always be the supportive time. But the vampires quickly get weeded out. If you're constantly negative, constantly complaining, and constantly not being a support to other women, you'll find that you'll get pushed away. But we shouldn't be doing that to the neglect of the other person, because as you said, we don't know what their story is. We don't know the backstory. We haven't walked in their shoes. So we do have to temper that with always being kind, and also just considering maybe that person's not being a good support because they actually just can't dredge up any enthusiasm for life right now. So if you are generally a positive person, I was doing a 365 days of gratitude last year. I got thrown off the pedestal because this year there's 366 days. But if you are a positive person and you have it in your tank to give more than you expect, absolutely be that support. Yeah. But we always need to be aware of the people that maybe need a little bit of extra love. And you'll get the type of people that are those that are giving support all the time and those that are slightly more on a taking side. But I think especially in these times, we just have to be kind. Just always be kind. Whatever you do, if you can be a support, be a support. If you need more support, you need to ask for that. You need to reach out. On our Umhlanga Women Achievers group, we have a WhatsApp group, which is a support group. And the ladies in this time have opened up. They've been vulnerable. They've said, I'm not coping. And, you know, people have kind of gone, but you're always the strong one. You're always the one that's the smiley, happy one. But in this time, people that you least expect would need support have reached out and said, guys, I'm not coping. I'm really not coping. And I think that it takes strength to actually admit that you're not coping and to ask for help. So I don't judge whether I'm the one giving the support or whether I'm the one taking the support. I'm certainly not shy to ask for support, but a lot of really strong ladies are embarrassed to ask for support. They just really don't want to do that. And I just think a type of a buddy system, which we also introduced at KZN Women in Business at the beginning of lockdown, where all the past presidents phoned 10 people that were members of the organization just as a check-in. Hey, how are you doing? What do you need? And we had the most amazing conversations that came out of that. So, you know, a great idea is to pair up with other people, you know, have a little buddy system where you just phone, you WhatsApp, you check in with those people just to make sure that they're okay. And it doesn't matter if you're the one giving the support or taking the support, as long as somebody's checking up on you or you checking up on somebody else. I think it works both ways.
Absolutely. And I think also as women, we kind of sometimes can make assumptions about people, you know, oh, I've tried to reach out and maybe she hasn't come back to me because of X, Y, and Z. And actually you've got it all wrong as to what actually is going on in that person's life.
Yeah. I think it's a lesson not to judge. Don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, it sounds so cliched, but you absolutely don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And those people that you think have it the most together are the most successful and, you know, the most professional, you don't know. And just reach out and just say, hey, how are you doing?
No, I agree with you there. We're going to cut to a few tracks now and we'll be back with Alice Leah. Don't go too far. So we're spending the evening chatting to Alice Leah, and she's been giving us so much of input and insight. She's had so much of involvement with various women and women's organizations, and she's been giving us so much of input tonight. So Alice, thank you so much again. And I just want to ask you, who have your mentors been, and what other resources can you share with us and other women that are possibly looking for help or do not know how to go about finding that mentor? Who has been that in your life?
So I have a few. I mentioned Gillian Scott earlier, who in her 60s is still riding a Harley. She's absolutely incredible. She has a passion for life. She is so young at heart. I think she'll still be riding her Harley when she's 80. But she's just the most incredible, nurturing soul. She's also been on my journey through all the years at all the women's networking groups. And funny enough, she was my print rep at Mum's Mail for the 12 years that I owned the magazine. So she and I have a very close bond. An interview like this would be remiss if I didn't mention Cindy Norcott, who is just the most amazing woman. I mean, besides climbing, was it Kilimanjaro or Everest? I'm sure it was Everest, but she'll probably say, don't be stupid, it was Kilimanjaro. She wrote a book. She started the Robin Hood Foundation, which is the most amazing charity, which steals from the rich and gives to the poor. She doesn't really steal. She just asks really nicely, and people just give willingly because she's so fabulous. So she is just the most amazing woman. She climbs mountains, she starts charities, and she still runs her own recruitment business and does it with a smile. She's one of the most positive people I know. And that leads me on to one of the resources which I recently got as a gift from Darlene Menzies, who I work with at FinFind. It's a book from the Christian Bookshop at Pavilion by Carolyn Larson, and it's a gift of grace and gratitude, 366 days to experiencing the showers of God's blessing and love. And I absolutely love this book. It's a daily reading. It's a dated daily reading. So you go on to whatever the day's date is, there'll be a theme. So I've just randomly opened the book right now, and it's a gentle whisper with a reading from Kings. And then they unpack the reading. So that is something that I'd seen on Kim from Robin Hood Foundation's Facebook page. She often posts little screenshots, and I said to her, no, I hate missing out. I have terrible FOMO. Where is this from? Yes. and she mentioned it was from one of these types of books. So of course I rushed off, and Darlene blessed me with the gift of this book. And every morning I open it up, and sometimes I really don't like the message. It's like God is speaking directly to my soul, like he's chastising me. But of course I know he doesn't do that. Yeah. But some days the reading is so profound. I think that's exactly what I needed to hear. And I think if you're struggling with positivity, struggling with gratitude, to get yourself something like one of those little books from the Christian Bookshop is really, really very uplifting. I often find myself rereading some of the days. Days later, I go back to that date and I go, wow, I didn't know what that message was about at the start of the day. But looking back, that had such an impact on me. It was like it was written just for me for that time.
I absolutely love that. And I'm going to get the name of the book and the author, and I'm going to put it in our link if we post this video on
Wonderful
channel so that others can get it too. And I know exactly what you mean, because Kim was on my first interview on Radio Hallelujah.
Oh, wow. I missed that one.
I spoke to her about those resources that she takes screenshots of and she posts, because I just love them as well. And I knew our listeners would love it as well. So I got her to read one of the passages from one of the books when she was on.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. Great minds think alike.
Yes. And I think Cindy is going to be coming up one of the weeks as well. So we look forward to that.
Oh, wonderful.
Your mentors. But yeah, I think that as you journey through, people come into your life and you don't actually realize, hey, in a few years' time, I'm going to look back and this person is actually going to have mentored me without me even knowing it. And that's so beautiful, and it does tend to
she's incredible.
Step up and assist you with so many things when it comes to either your career or a new chapter in your life. And it's those women that kind of silently come alongside you and give you so much input without even knowing it or realizing it at the time.
Absolutely.
So to close off, I wanted to ask you, what is your personal mission or the message or the footprint that you are trying to leave on the world? What are your final thoughts?
So for me, the power of connecting people is my mission. I love to be able to be the person that they come to say, hey, Alice knows somebody that does that. Alice can connect you to that person. Alice knows everybody. And I really do love that, because I love making the connections that just make people's lives easier. Just today, that very same wonderful Peach Pichet lady sent me a voice note and said, oh, I've just been standing in a queue at the post office for 2 hours to renew my car license. Didn't you mention on Facebook you knew somebody that could help me with that? And of course, I sprung into action. I said, of course, Peach. I told you, it's Claudette Lingenfelder's husband, Noel Lingenfelder, KZN Elite Licensing Services. He normally charges $250, but if you tell him that Alice sent you, you'll get an A-list special of only $200.
I love that.
So I just love being able to connect people to the right people quickly to make their lives simpler. And if we can get a discount, even better.
So you are still running the A list, or?
Yes, so I kept the A list going. So in between Mum's Mail and FinFund, where I am now, I started the A list, which is a marketing and PR company, which basically exists for the sole purpose of spreading news about different charities and charitable causes and fundraising events.
Okay.
So yeah, this coming Friday night, I'm going to be MC for the Sunflower Fund's Women's Evening. So that's going to be fun. But I use it to send out messages about various charities and events. And throughout the whole of lockdown, every Thursday, I've been sending out a newsletter totally free of charge to the businesses. They can send me a paragraph of information and I highlight their business in my newsletter, and there's no charge for that. So any businesses that would like to spread the news about what they do, they're welcome to send me their info, and I do that for them.
That is great. And I'll also include those details on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much, Alice. I really, really share that passion with you, which is the reason I created Share. Was I believe that we all have so much within us. We've got intrinsic value that we need to make extrinsic, and we need to share with each other and create these platforms where we can connect. And there's so many tools, resources, information, and that is why I created Share. When I had that first event, I didn't even know where Share was going to go, and now it's grown into something so great. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm always trying to put information out there to help others and to share thoughts, ideas. So I can totally understand where you're coming from.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining us on Radio Hallelujah and for sharing your time with us and giving us so much of insight into what you do and who you are and just your involvement with so many women.
Oh, Jerusha, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time and just sharing this space with you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Alice.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerusha. Good night.
Bye.